Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, January the 27th. We got a big slate for Wednesday. We got a 12-gamer, ton of games to break down. We're going to break it down team by team, so I don't want to waste too much time since we do have a lot of games today. This video might be a little bit longer than usual, but I'll try and go as quick as I can. If there's teams I don't have too much interest in, I'll be sure to say that. Just kind of go through things quickly. So before we do get started with the breakdown, guys, just please hit that like button down below. As always, I do appreciate all the likes. Hit the subscribe button as well if you are new here. Be sure to click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You will also get notified every time I do go live. I will be live streaming this afternoon around 3:30 Eastern time if you're able to tune into the stream. We'll break down the slate once again. I'll be able to answer all your questions. We'll take a look back at my lineup from last night. We'll do all that in the live stream. So if you want to tune into the live stream, I will be live this afternoon around 3:30 Eastern time. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at Wednesday's slate. We'll start off with the Pacers and the Hornets game. We'll start off on the Pacers side, and this is actually a pretty appealing game on the Pacers side, mainly given that Domantas Sabonis is currently questionable. This is one of the big injuries that we'll need to watch heading into Wednesday. Sabonis' status does affect a good amount. If he is out, that is a big boost for Malcolm Brogdon. That's a big boost for Miles Turner. I think Jeremy Lamb would be a great play at 5,100 if Sabonis is out. So those are the three guys I'm going to be looking to mainly if Sabonis is out. If he plays, he becomes viable himself, just given it's a really good matchup against the Hornets. The Hornets have always been a team that's been pretty bad defensively against bigs. This is definitely a good spot for Sabonis. But really, if the team's healthy, there's not too much that stands out here outside of Jeremy Lamb. I think Jeremy Lamb, regardless of if Sabonis plays or not, he's a really good option in my opinion. 5,100 on DK, pretty affordable. He's also coming in pretty affordable on Yahoo, $15. So if you're looking for a cheap shooting guard there, I think Jeremy Lamb does look like a good option. So he's played 4 games so far since making his debut, coming back from injury. First game, he was limited to 19 minutes, but then got 28 minutes the game after that, 20 minutes after that one, and then last game he played his season high 33 minutes. It was pretty productive with 36 DK points. Jeremy Lamb, always been a guy that's can be relatively productive when he does get minutes. We know this Pacers team is still without Karis LeVert. They're still without TJ Warren. It's going to be Brogdon and Sabonis dominating the usage, but Jeremy Lamb should get a good amount of usage off the bench. Should definitely get a lot of time with the second unit. And I think at 5,100, if he's going to get 28 to 30 minutes, he can be a fantasy point per minute player in this offense right now. He's a guy that can score. That's something that the Pacers are really lacking right now outside of their main 3 guys, Sabonis, Brogdon, and Turner. They're really lacking guys that can score. But Jeremy Lamb can definitely do that. At 5,100, I like him quite a bit. Obviously, if Sabonis gets ruled out, that makes me like Jeremy Lamb even more. I would assume that if Sabonis is out, that you most likely see Jeremy Lamb move into the starting lineup, and then they'll slide everybody down. So Turner will play center. Doug McDermott will start at power forward. Regardless of the status of Sabonis, I really like Lamb. Obviously, he gets a little bit of a boost if Sabonis is out. And then, like I said, Malcolm Brogdon, Miles Turner, both those 2 guys, Brogdon and Turner, become really good options if Sabonis is out. I'm going to like both those 2 guys quite a bit. But that kind of does it for the Pacers. Moving on to the Hornets side, this is not a team I have too much interest in. It's not a great matchup. I think Gordon Hayward's viable at 7,500. He is someone you can look to if if you're looking for a little bit of a pay-up option at small forward. I always have interest in Hayward just because he's going to dominate the usage, and he plays small forward, which is usually a pretty gross position to fill out. Like, small forward's always pretty tough to find solid plays at. But this slate, we have Jeremy Lamb that you can play a small forward on DK. If I was going to go to anyone on Charlotte, I think it would be Gordon Hayward. LaMelo Ball, his price tag's come way down to 6,200. He's been pretty bad lately, but if you want to buy low on LaMelo Ball, everybody's off of him right now. Like, nobody's playing him. He's going to be really low owned. I think at some point he's going to pop off again. He's going to have a big game off the bench. He's going to be really low owned in tournaments, so that's someone you could maybe play for low ownership, but nothing in terms of core options. Nothing really stands out from the Hornets. I think in this game as a whole, it's more appealing on the Pacers side, given the injury to Sabonis, which is going to open up some potential plays if he's out. But we'll go ahead and move on to Detroit and Cleveland. Detroit does have an injury to talk about. Blake Griffin has already been ruled out for this game, so that could potentially open up some viable options. I don't think too much changed because of that, but you got Jeremy Grant, 8,100. I don't think on this slate I can pay 8,100 for Jeremy Grant. I know Griffin's out and he should get a little bit of a boost, but there's other guys I'd rather pay for. There's better matchups as well, like better game environments. I mean, this game's probably going to be pretty slow pace. Both these teams are pretty slow in terms of pace overall. I don't really like anything from Detroit. Like, DeLon Wright's been a really good play lately because Derrick Rose has been out. But now that Derrick Rose is back, plus DeLon Wright's price is way up, I don't have any interest in him. I mean, Rose coming off the bench could be viable in tournaments at 5,300, but still, I don't think he's like a core option for me. I think he's someone you can kind of mix in. Nothing really, stands out though. I mean, Josh Jackson maybe is a cheap option. He should get a few more minutes with Blake Griffin out. They might start him. They haven't lately, but we've seen at times when Blake Griffin's been out, they have started Josh Jackson. If he were to start, he would become a lot better value at 4,600. Sadiq Bey, he might start, but even if he does, like, he's just such a low usage player. We've seen Sadiq Bey make spot starts this year and just be really bad, just not be able to produce. Like, nothing really stands out from Detroit. I mean, this game as a whole is not that appealing. On the Cleveland side, there's really not much that stands out. Like, Larry Nance is questionable again. If he were to sit, we saw Taurean Prince move into the starting lineup with Larry Nance out. Prince would most likely start again. Could maybe be a value at 4,500, but not a guy I'm really in love with. Drummond, he's not playing a ton of minutes anymore. Now that he's splitting minutes with Jared Allen, you're seeing Drummond just play like 26, 28 minutes, which obviously kills his value when he's still expensive. Sexton, I mean, he has upside against a pretty bad Detroit team, a bad defensive team, but he doesn't stand out as a top option for me. Like, really, there's just not much I like in this game in Detroit and Cleveland. So we can go ahead and move on to the next one, Sacramento and Orlando. On the Sacramento side, again, like, this is just another team I just don't have a ton of interest in. Where they're priced at, like, nobody stands out as a top option. Sure, De'Aaron Fox could always pop off and put up a big game, but in this matchup against Orlando, like, he's just not a guy that stands out as a top play, especially not at his price. Rashawn Holmes, he has upside if he's going to get, 35, 36 minutes. I know he got a good amount of minutes last game, 37 minutes, had 41 DK points. In tournaments, like, you could target Rashawn Holmes as a low-owned guy that does have upside, but yeah, like I said, nothing really stands out from Sacramento. Now on the Orlando side, the price tags on Orlando aren't great, but the matchup is really good, which does make me have interest in these guys. It is a big-time pace-up matchup for Orlando. Sacramento, they're playing really fast this year. They've been really bad defensively. So guys like Vooch, Aaron Gordon, Cole Anthony to a lesser extent, those guys are interesting to me. Vooch's price is way up, so it's tough to consider him like a core play at 9,200, but I think he's someone I do want to have exposure to if I'm playing multiple lineups. Same could be said for Aaron Gordon as well. Cole Anthony been playing much better lately, been way more consistent. His price is still somewhat reasonable at 5,500. If we're going to get 32, 34 minutes from Cole Anthony here in a big-time pace-up spot against the Kings, at 5,500, I think he's someone you can consider. If I'm looking to any guys from the Magic today, it's definitely going to be Vooch, Gordon, and Anthony. Don't have too much interest in anyone else, just given, where Fournier's priced at or Terrence Ross is priced at. I don't really like either one of those guys. So that kind of does it from the Magic side. Not much stands out as core plays, but like Vooch, Gordon, Anthony, I think you can sprinkle in if you are making a lot of lineups. Now moving on to Brooklyn, Atlanta. This is a very appealing game, mainly on the Atlanta side, but overall this should be a very fast-paced game. It should be high-scoring. Both Brooklyn and Atlanta, I believe, are top 10 in pace this year. I think Atlanta's I think they're like 5th or 6th in pace, and Brooklyn's like top 4, top 5. So both these teams are playing really fast. Now on the Brooklyn side, given the pricing, like I've said, Kevin Durant when he's above 10K, Harden when he's above 10K, when these guys are priced where they're at, when they're fully healthy, I just don't have much interest in Durant or Harden where they're priced at. Like Durant, I'm looking for about 60 DK points from him, and sure, he could give you that in a matchup like this, but he's not someone that stands out as like a top stud for me. I think there's other studs I'd rather pay up for. Same with James Harden. I mean, Harden's just been terrible lately. I don't know what's been going on with Harden. He hasn't been taking many shots. He's been contributing with peripherals, but obviously at 10,100, we need more than 45, 50 DK points. I mean, I'm looking for like 60 plus at 10.1K, so don't really see myself playing Harden. Maybe Kyrie, just given he's 8,800 and he's the most affordable of the three. We know Kyrie still has big-time upside. Fast-paced game, not going to be much defense played. I mean, this is definitely a good spot for Kyrie Irving. So out of the big three from Brooklyn, if I had to pick one, I think it would be Kyrie Irving for me at 8,800. But like Joe Harris, DeAndre Jordan, I don't have too much interest in. I mean, Jordan, if he were to get the minutes, would be a guy worth considering, but the minutes just haven't been there. Like, he's not getting 30-plus minutes. He's playing like low 20s to mid-20s in minutes, which really just caps his upside. Yeah, not much stands out from Brooklyn as core options. I think if I had to choose anyone, it'd be KD and Kyrie for me. Kyrie I like the most, but not much stands out from Brooklyn. Now on the Atlanta side, there's a lot I do like quite a bit from Atlanta. So we'll start off with Trae Young. I think he looks like a really good option here. 9,200 on DK, I still think is a little bit too cheap. He's very affordable on Yahoo as well, coming in at $40 over there. I like Trae Young quite a bit on Yahoo as well. Really, I just think he's too cheap for a fast-paced game like this. He's going to play 35, 36 minutes if it's a close game. He had a pretty solid game Tuesday night against the Clippers. I liked him a good amount once he was ruled in. Played 36 minutes, had 51 DK points. We saw Trae Young, at the beginning of the year and towards the middle part, like earlier, a couple weeks back, he was really struggling, just wasn't playing well. He's been much better lately. He looked like his old self. He's got 50-plus DK points in 5 straight games, been really consistent. 9,200, that's too low of a price for Trae Young in a fast-paced game like this where there should be a ton of points scored. Love the upside on Trae Young tonight. He's definitely one of my favorite pay-up options on this slate. I like him a ton at 9,200. Clint Capella, he's tougher to pay for at 9,100. I would much rather play Trae Young for 100 more. But Capella is still viable for sure. The dude just goes out there and crushes every night. He's getting you a double-double basically every night. He's blocking a ton of shots. He's a guy that can get defensive stats. He's playing big minutes as well. If we're going to get 35, 36 minutes from Clint Capella in a matchup against a Brooklyn team that's always struggled to defend bigs, I would not be surprised to see a 50-point game from Clint Capella. At 9,100, that's still a pretty hefty price tag to pay for him. I think on Yahoo, that's where Clint Capella looks a lot better. He's $38. He's a lot easier to get in over there. If I was going to play him today, it would definitely be on Yahoo. I do like Capella quite a bit over there. John Collins, I like a good amount on both sides, but on Yahoo, he looks really good. $26 just feels too cheap for John Collins. When this guy's playing 35, 36 minutes a night, he's going to put up 35, 40 fantasy points most nights. He's got 41 and 43 in his last 2 games. He was another guy that kind of had, a little bit of a rough stretch there. Wasn't playing too well, but he's been playing much better lately. He's been scoring, he's been rebounding, he's been getting blocks, which is good for his fantasy upside, especially on Yahoo where blocks are worth 3 points. I do like John Collins a lot on Yahoo at $26, and I think he's still viable on DK at 7,700. But on Yahoo, that's where Collins looks the best. I think overall on DK, my favorite guy from the Hawks is for sure Trae Young at 9,200. I don't mind DeAndre Hunter. He played really well again on Wednesday. I did have him in my on Tuesday. I did have him in my main lineup. Played 36 minutes, had 36 DK points. He's been really productive this year. He's been basically a fantasy point per minute player. We saw Cam Reddish was ruled out for Tuesday's game, so there's a chance that maybe Reddish does not play again today, which would make me like Hunter a little bit more. His price it's creeping up there, but in a fast-paced game, he does have upside, so I don't mind DeAndre Hunter, but Herter, Gallo, I just don't have any interest in these guys. It's definitely going to be Young, Capella, Collins, and Hunter going to be the 4 guys I have the most interest in from Atlanta, with obviously Trae Young being my favorite of the 4. We'll go ahead and move on to the next game, Denver and Miami. So on Denver, for me, this team is pretty straightforward. It's Jamal Murray and it's Nikola Jokic. MPJ had a good game last game off the bench, but he's up to $7K now. I don't have a ton of interest in MPJ at that price tag. I think Jokic, though, he's always a guy is worth paying up for. On this slate, does he stand out as a top option against Miami? No, because it is a tougher matchup, but still a guy in tournaments that you can have exposure to just because he has so much upside every night. He has triple-double upside every night. He contributes in all categories. He stuffs the stat sheet. The price tag did come down a little bit, which makes him a little bit more appealing. So I do like Jokic. Jamal Murray as well, another guy that just always has upside. Does he stand out as a top option against Miami on this slate? No, but if you want to mix him in tournaments, I think he's viable. Jokic is definitely my favorite guy from Denver, though. If I had to pick one guy to play from this team, it would be Jokic. I'll for sure have exposure to Jokic if I do decide to play multiple lineups on Wednesday's slate. Jokic will definitely be in my player pool, but that's really it for me from Denver. I don't see myself going to any of these secondary pieces. So we'll go ahead and move on to Miami. Now on Miami, this is a team we have to keep an eye on in terms of injuries. Right now, Tyler Hero and Goran Dragic are both questionable, which are 2 pretty big, impactful injuries. If they both play, I really don't have too much interest in Miami as a whole. It's not the best matchup against Denver. We know Jimmy Butler remains out, so obviously that's going to benefit guys like Bam, Dragic if he plays, Hero if he plays. But at their price tags, none of them stand out as top options for me. I think if Dragic and Hero both play, my favorite guy from Miami would be just Bam. Try and get up to Bam at 8,600. But if Dragic and Hero are both out, Kendrick Nunn at 5,700, I like a lot if Hero and Dragic are both out. Obviously, Nunn's still been getting big minutes lately off the bench with Hero out, but I would assume that if Dragic is out too, then we see Kendrick Nunn move into the starting lineup, probably plays 36, 38 minutes. He's a productive player when he gets minutes. With no Dragic, with no Nunn, or with no Dragic, with no Hero, and with Butler out as well. Like, if all three of those guys were to be out, we obviously know Butler's out, but if Dragic and Hero get ruled out, I mean, there would be a ton of usage for Kendrick Nunn, a ton of minutes. Even at 5,700, he would be a top play for me, so we need to keep an eye on the status of Hero and Dragic. If they are both out, I like Kendrick Nunn a lot. That would give a little bit of a boost to Bam, but Nunn would be the top play for me from Miami. But if this team's fully healthy outside of Butler, like if Dragic and Hero both play, not a ton stands out from Miami as core options. So we can go ahead and move on to the next one, the Lakers and the Sixers. Now this game should be pretty appealing to watch on, from a real life standpoint. In terms of DFS, in terms of fantasy, not much stands out in this game. Like the Lakers side, it's LeBron, it's AD. I don't have any interest in any other Lakers outside of LeBron and Davis. In a matchup against the Sixers, I mean, they don't stand out as top plays. They're guys that, again, you can kind of mix in tournaments. Like LeBron, his price is coming up, but he's been playing really well lately, so I don't mind him. The price tag on AD is still pretty low at $9K. He hasn't been as good lately, but we know Davis always just has a big ceiling, can pop off at any time. If I'm playing any Lakers, it's obviously going to be those two guys, but neither one stands out as top options for me as core plays. Now on the Sixers side, it's kind of the same thing. Joel Embiid's expected to play, so he's back. I don't really like Simmons at his price. I don't like Tobias Harris at his price. Embiid would be the one guy I would play if I was going to play someone from the Sixers, just because we know Embiid just has massive upside. I know the matchup's not great against the Lakers, but this is a big-time game. I'm sure this game's on national television, so I would expect Embiid come out and play well here in a big-time game that should stay close, should be competitive. We're going to get 35, 36 minutes from him if the game is close. He's been playing so well this year. He has massive upside on a nightly basis. Even in a tough matchup like this, I think Embiid is definitely viable in tournaments as a lower-owned option. I don't see him getting too much, attraction today. I think he is going to be pretty low-owned. I think from this game as a whole, Embiid's probably my favorite guy to go to. Embiid, LeBron, and Davis are the guys I like most, but none of them are going to be core plays. They'll just be guys that I kind of mix in tournaments, at least for now. Maybe if some great value opens up and it's easier to pay up for these studs, then I'll try and get more like these guys in. But for now, Embiid, LeBron, AD, they just kind of seem like secondary stud options for me. We can go ahead and move on to the next one. Milwaukee and Toronto. Again, this is just not a game that really stands out in terms of DFS appeal. On the Milwaukee side, it's obviously Giannis that you can pay up for. Giannis, I think, is always a guy you can look to pay up for just because he's so productive when he's on the floor. Even though this isn't a great matchup against Toronto, these are the kind of games I like to target Giannis, given it should be a close game, it should be competitive, and we've seen, like, in close games this year, Giannis is getting bigger minutes. He's playing, 34, 35 minutes in close games, got 36 minutes last game against the Hawks. If he plays 35, 36 minutes, he is very likely going to put up 50-plus DK points and be a solid play at his price tag. So I do have some interest in Giannis as a pay-up option. I think he's going to be low-owned as well, so he's someone you can look to in tournaments. But outside of Giannis, I don't really like Drew Holiday or Chris Middleton at their price tags. Not really on Brook Lopez. Nothing stands out from Milwaukee outside of Giannis at the top, if you can get to him. Now on the Toronto side, another team that is dealing with some injuries. Pascal Siakam is currently questionable for this game. If Siakam plays, Toronto's just not a team I have much interest in, given where they're all priced at. If Siakam is out again, though, that gives a little bit of a bump to Van Vliet and Lowry. Neither one are going to be top plays for me, but I think there are guys that you could sprinkle in tournaments. We've seen Norman Powell start in place of Siakam the last few games when he's been out. His price is all the way up to 6,100 on DK, so it's tough to go to Norman Powell. I think on Yahoo, I think he's still a little bit too cheap on Yahoo. Norman Powell is... he's $17 on Yahoo, so I could definitely see playing him over there if Siakam is out again. I think Siakam likely plays here, which isn't going to make me too interested in anyone from Toronto. But if he is out again, little bump for Van Vliet, little bump for Lowry. Powell would start again, but his DK price, I don't love him. I'd like him a lot more on Yahoo. Don't really like Boucher or OG, though, at their price tags. So Toronto is probably going to be just a team I'm not exposed to much at all, outside of maybe Powell on Yahoo if Siakam's out again. So I think that kind of does it for Toronto. We can go ahead and move on to Boston and San Antonio. Boston, a team that's been dealing with COVID issues a lot this year, but they're kind of fully healthy now. Tatum is back, Kemba's back. So they got Tatum, Brown, Smart, Kemba. They are all healthy right now. which just makes it tough. Tatum's 8,700, which is still a pretty affordable price tag for him. I mean, Tatum could definitely pay off that price any night. He was limited a little bit, though, in his first game back from the COVID protocols. Only played 31 minutes. Normally, we see Tatum play like 35, 36 minutes. I think he'll get back to his normal minutes today. So, 8,700, he's a fine option. Same with Jaylen Brown. But now the team is fully healthy. I don't love any of these guys. I think Kemba would probably be my favorite, just given he's 6,300. Now that Tatum is back, I think Kemba, on a point-per-minute basis, is probably not going to be as productive, but I would assume he gets, probably 30, 32 minutes today. He only played 24 last game against Cleveland, but that was a big-time blowout. I think in this game against San Antonio, which should stay close, we probably get 30, 32 minutes from Kemba. He's 6,300. He's still pretty affordable. I don't mind him. He's probably my favorite guy from the Celtics when you do factor in price, but nothing stands out as top plays from Boston. Given the team starting to get fully healthy now, there's not a ton of guys that stand out as core options from the Celtics. So we can go ahead and move on to San Antonio. Now, on the San Antonio side, there is one guy I do like quite a bit. We'll talk about him in a second. But first, I do want to hit on DeMar DeRozan. You got him at 7,100, which is a pretty appropriate price tag from DeRozan. If anything, it's a little bit too cheap for him. He had a bad game last time out in a really good spot against Washington, but he was in a ton of foul trouble in that game. I would expect DeRozan to play much better here. The price tag's down to 7,100. Even in a tough matchup here against Boston, I think DeRozan does look pretty appealing given that he has been priced down. So I do have some interest in him. Dejounte Murray, though, I think is the guy that I really like here. 6,600 on DK, still very affordable. I had a ton of interest in him on Monday's slate, and then that game between the Spurs and Pelicans was postponed, so obviously I didn't play Murray. But I'm assuming this game's good to go. Haven't seen anything that would make us think otherwise, so assuming this game plays, Dejounte Murray is just too cheap at 6,600. When this guy is fully healthy and he's playing his full allotment of minutes, he should be a 7,500, 8K player. And we saw that, over his last few games, 7K, 7,400, 8,100, 7,800. He's been 7 to 8K basically all year. He did have that one game against Dallas where he got hurt 1 minute into the game, and that kind of just, I don't know what happened, but that just killed his price tag, and now he's down to 6,600 for some reason. I know the matchup is not great against Boston, but Dejounte Murray is such a productive player when he's on the floor. He does everything. He scores, he rebounds, he gets assists. He can triple-double any night, and we saw that last game against Washington. Had a triple-double in that game, 46 DK points. I love Dejounte Murray at his price tag. I think he's too cheap on DraftKings at 6,600. Even in the tougher matchup, he looks like a really good play at that price tag. Keldon Johnson, LaMarcus Aldridge, I don't have too much interest in. Really nobody else stands out from San Antonio outside of DeRozan and Murray. I think both DeRozan and Murray, especially Murray, are a little bit too cheap on this slate, talking DraftKings pricing. But we can go ahead and move on to the next game, Washington and New Orleans. So Washington, this will be a team to monitor. They are on a back-to-back. We don't know yet if Russell Westbrook is going to play. Pretty sure he's rested on all their back-to-backs so far this year. He was on a minutes restriction in Tuesday's game, so maybe he's able to play today. But this will be something to monitor. If Westbrook plays, not much stands out as top options from Washington given their price tag. It's Bradley Beal's all the way up to 10,200. I'm going to have a lot of interest in him if Westbrook rests, but if Westbrook plays, I don't really like anything from Washington outside of, really nothing. Not even Westbrook I would really look to unless he's going to be full go. His prices come down, so maybe if he's full go, he could be interesting, but I'm assuming that he's limited again or he just doesn't play at all. If Westbrook does rest, then yeah, I like Bradley Beal quite a bit. I'm going to have a lot of interest in him even at 10,200 just because he's going to dominate the usage when he's on the floor. He gets a massive bump with Westbrook out. So this is just kind of a wait and see for now. If Westbrook's good to go and he plays on the back-to-back, I don't have any interest in really anyone from Washington. But if Westbrook winds up resting, then definitely like Bradley Beal. And most likely, we would see Raul Neto move into the starting lineup in place of Westbrook. He would be a decent value at 4,300. So it's just kind of a wait and see here for Washington. A lot of these guys are questionable as well that have been out lately. So we'll have to see if they play. We'll just have to wait and see here. Hard to really break down Washington right now given all the question marks regarding their team. But let's go ahead and move on to New Orleans. On the New Orleans side, in terms of price point, nobody stands out as a core play for me from New Orleans. But given the good matchup against Washington, these are guys that I want to have exposure to in tournaments. Brandon Ingram, Zion, Lonzo, I do like his price down to 5,600. Now, if I'm playing one lineup today, I don't know if I get to any of these three guys in my one lineup, but if you're playing multiple lineups, I think you want to have some exposure to these New Orleans guys, given how good of a matchup it is. Washington playing at the fastest pace in the league so far. They've been terrible defensively. We could definitely see ceiling games from Brandon Ingram or Zion, or even Lonzo Ball could finally have a good game. So I do like those three guys. Those are the three guys I really have the most interest in from New Orleans. Not really interested in Eric Bledsoe or Steven Adams or any of the bench guys. So it's Ingram, it's Zion, and it's Lonzo for me from New Orleans. I do have interest in all three of those guys today. We'll go ahead and move on to OKC and Phoenix. On OKC, some injuries to watch here. Al Horford is questionable. George Hill is questionable as well. If Al Horford winds up out, that does obviously benefit Isaiah Roby. At $5K, he'd be a decent option. If George Hill's out again, that would benefit Hamidou Diallo, and he's still pretty cheap at $4,400. So those could be two guys you consider if Hill and Horford are out. If they play, I mean, really, this is a team that I don't have too much interest in if they're fully healthy. You know, SGA is someone you can always mix in tournaments, but on this slate, he doesn't really stand out as a top option for me. I'd rather save $2,000 and play Dejounte Murray. I'd rather play the other point guard in this game, who we're going to talk about. I do like Chris Paul quite a bit. So really not much stands out from OKC outside of SGA in tournaments. And Isaiah Roby, I would like a good amount if Horford's out again. But that kind of does it from OKC. Not a team I have too much interest in. Now on the Phoenix side, I do like Phoenix quite a bit because we already know that Devin Booker is going to be out again. And we've seen over the last two games with Devin Booker out, Chris Paul has played really well. His assist numbers have skyrocketed. 15 and 13 assists over his last two games, 40 and 56 DK points. He's been playing a ton of minutes as well. I know the Denver game, that second one, went to double overtime, but still, we're probably going to get 35, 36 minutes from Chris Paul here. His price tag went up a little bit, but honestly, I don't think it went up enough because he has big-time upside with Booker off the floor. He's going to be the primary point guard. He's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. His assist numbers are going to skyrocket. Like, even though Chris Paul's an older guy at this point, he still has a ton of upside for fantasy. He's a guy that can score. He can obviously get a ton of assists. He can get rebounds as well. Legit has triple-double upside. I really like Chris Paul at 7,600. And if you want to factor it in, it is a hashtag revenge game for him against his former team, the Thunder. So really like Chris Paul on both sides. With Devin Booker being out again, he does really benefit. And I think he's still a little bit too cheap on both sides. $29 on Yahoo. I do like that price tag quite a bit as well. But that kind of does it for Phoenix. Like, I really like Chris Paul. You know, DeAndre Ayton, I think you can mix in tournaments. He's been playing much better lately. We've seen him kind of pop off these last few games. Pretty good matchup here, especially if Horford's out, like up against Isaiah Roby. I mean, Roby doesn't stand a chance against DeAndre Ayton. So I definitely have interest in Ayton. Bridges, I fell into that trap last game. I played Mikal Bridges with Booker out, and it bit me. He played 36 minutes, only had 22 DK points. He got in some foul trouble. I'm sure I'm not going to play him today, and he's going to go off because that's just how DFS goes. But I don't have too much interest in Mikal Bridges. Just not a high usage player. Doesn't really contribute much when he's on the floor. He's going to play a lot of minutes though, which I guess does make him viable. You know, Cam Johnson could maybe be a value. We saw him start last game in place of Booker, or they started Jay Crowder alongside Cam Johnson. That's probably what they're going to do again. Those guys are fine value plays, but really from Phoenix, I think it's definitely Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton as the two guys that really stand out from the Suns for me. Obviously, Chris Paul being the guy I like the most. We'll go ahead and move on to Dallas and Utah. Now, in this game, I mean, on Dallas, it's really Luka and Porzingis. Like, I don't have any interest in THJ at his price or Josh Richardson, even if he plays. I mean, Richardson's prices come way down, but I would assume he's going to be limited given he hasn't played in so long. Brunson's been starting lately, but I don't have much interest in him even at 4,700. Luka, I think in tournaments you can mix in. You know, this is not a great matchup against Utah. It's definitely going to be a slow-paced game. Utah's good defensively, but we see that Luka can just pop off at any game. Would I be surprised if Luka puts up 70, 80 DK points again? Like, I would not be surprised at all. I also wouldn't be surprised if he has, a pretty mediocre game and only puts up 45 to 50. I think the range of outcomes is kind of wide here, but in tournaments, you can definitely mix in Luka Doncic. I think same goes for Kristaps Porzingis. Not a great matchup, but these are guys that have upside. We know those are going to be the two guys that dominate the usage. I could see mixing them in tournaments. I've been playing Porzingis a lot on Yahoo lately, but his price is still, it's starting to get up there now. He's $34. In a matchup against the Jazz, I don't think he looks like a top play at that price tag. So not much stands out on Dallas outside of mixing in Luka and Porzingis in tournaments. And the same goes for Utah. Utah is on a back-to-back, so this will be something to monitor. I don't think anybody's going to rest here, but it will be something to monitor. I think on the Jazz side, my favorite guy to target would probably be Rudy Gobert at his price tag. Like 7,200 is still a pretty nice price for Gobert. We know he's going to just basically double every night. He's always going to be on the glass grabbing boards. He can score. He can block shots. He definitely gives you 40, 45 point upside. Like, he could put up 45 DK points here and be a decent play at 7,200. So I don't mind Rudy Gobert, but like this game as a whole is just not that appealing at all. There's not much that stands out from either side. in terms of core options. Now, moving on to the late night hammer, the last game on the slate, the Timberwolves and the Warriors. So this is a game that I have a lot of interest in. We saw these teams play on Monday. I love this game on Monday slate just because both these teams play at such a fast pace. Both these teams are not great defensively. I have a lot of interest in this game once again. So we will start off on the Minnesota side. Right now, we do need to watch the status of D'Angelo Russell. Russell missed last game. He's been ruled questionable for this game. If he plays, I think D'Angelo Russell in tournaments makes a lot of sense as a high upside option. I liked him a lot on Monday's slate. Obviously, once he got ruled out, I didn't have any interest, but I thought he was going to play Monday, and he didn't, which was kind of crazy. But if he plays today at 8,300, he definitely has upside here against this Warriors team that plays incredibly fast. Both these teams are fast-paced. This should be a high-scoring game. It should stay competitive. With no Karl-Anthony Towns, we know that Russell is going to dominate the usage, so I do like him quite a bit on DK at 8,300 if he does play, and he's pretty affordable on Yahoo still, $31 over there. I like D'Angelo Russell quite a bit on Yahoo as well if he indeed does play here. But if he's out again, Ricky Rubio I think is the guy I want to go to if Russell's out again. I had a good amount of interest in Rubio last slate. I played him in my main lineup. He was one of my highest owned players. He didn't have a great game. He only put up 27 DK points in 26 minutes, but Rubio has always been a pretty productive player when he does get minutes. He's a great scorer. Like, he's a underrated scorer, I think. He's a guy that gets a ton of assists as well. Definitely has potential to get you a double-double when it comes to points and assists. He did have 11 assists last game, which I believe was his highest on the season. He did play 26 minutes. I don't think Rubio's going to play like massive minutes, but I think 28 to 30 if this game stays close seems likely. He did get pulled a little early in that game because of the blowout. He was on pace to play close to 30 minutes, so I think we're going to get around 30 minutes from Rubio in the starting lineup if Russell is out again. And at 5,400, I still think he has a ton of upside for this price point. So if Russell's out again, I like Ricky Rubio a lot. Where Malik Beasley, Naz Reid are priced at, I don't have too much interest in them on DK, but on Yahoo, I do want to talk about Naz Reid on Yahoo. He is still very affordable over there. If you do play on Yahoo, I like Naz Reid a ton at $15. I think he's just too cheap. He's getting the minutes right now. He got into some foul trouble last game. He fouled out in 24 minutes, but he was still pretty productive in that time with 28 fantasy points in 24 minutes. Like, Reed's just a productive player when he gets minutes. He can score, he can rebound, he can block shots. We've seen him put up some big games when he gets the minutes. So now that he's starting and playing close to 30 minutes a night with Karl-Anthony Towns out, I think at $15, Naz Reid still looks like a very good option on Yahoo. I think he is still way too cheap over there. He was really low owned on Monday's slate, and I think he's going to be pretty low owned again. So I do like Naz Reid a lot on Yahoo. Tougher to go to him on Draftkings, though, where he is 6,100. But I do want to talk about Jared Vanderbilt. So I like Vanderbilt quite a bit on both sides. 5,400 on DK, coming in pretty affordable on Yahoo as well at $17 at power forward. This is another guy that's just, when he gets minutes, he's going to be very productive. We've seen that over his last 3 games. He has started their last 3 games and played 27, 21, and 25 minutes. Has put up 27, 37, and 28 DK points. He's been a fantasy point per minute player this year. He's another guy that definitely will get into foul trouble. Like, foul trouble is always an issue with Vanderbilt, but if he's not in foul trouble, I think 26 to 28 minutes is likely for him. And he can definitely give you 30-plus DK points in that time, especially in a fast-paced game like this, where you should see, him be able to rack up a ton of defensive stats like he did last game. I like Vanderbilt quite a bit at 5,400. Maybe some better value will open up as the day goes on, but I think right now he looks pretty solid at 5,400. I think Jeremy Lamb looks pretty solid at some early look values, in that 5K range. But that kind of does it for Minnesota. Mainly, if Russell plays, I like Russell. I like Vanderbilt. I like Naz Reid on Yahoo. If Russell's out, then I like, obviously, I like those same guys and Ricky Rubio as well. Beasley would obviously get a little bit of a boost if Russell's out. I just don't know if I want to pay $6,700 for him on DK on this slate. I think there's other guys I'd probably rather go to at that price tag. But we can go ahead and move on to Golden State, hit on the Warriors real quick before we do end the video. So honestly, I think the Warriors are a pretty straightforward team for me. I think Curry looks like a great pay-up option once again. I had Curry in my main lineup on Monday's slate in the same matchup, and he looks like a great play once again. His price only went up $100. He had a really good game Monday. Started off really slow, but got pretty hot in the fourth quarter. Finished with 53 DK points in 34 minutes. Like, 9,300 is just too cheap for Steph Curry in a fast-paced game like this where there shouldn't be much defense played. We know the usage is going to be dominated by Steph Curry, so I like him a lot. I think he's one of the better pay-up options along with Trae Young. Definitely Young, Curry look like two of my favorite guys, at the top, above 9K. Wiggins, I think, is fine to mix in tournaments. He did have a pretty good game when these teams played Monday. Had 43 DK points in 30 minutes. I don't mind him, but not a top option for me by any means. Kelly Oubre had a really good game as well. I like going to Kelly Oubre on this slate. He had 36 DK points in 28 minutes. He's probably going to play 30, 32 minutes here. He's been more productive lately. He's been getting time with the second unit. I like Oubre as a mix-in option in tournaments, but in terms of core plays, guys that stand out as top options, that is definitely Steph Curry for me on this slate, especially on DraftKings where he's too cheap at 9,300. But yeah, guys, that really does it for the Warriors. I don't think there's really any other plays to talk about. I mean, Kevon Looney started last game in place of, or he started ahead of Wiseman, but he only played 19 minutes, only had 15 DK points. Even at minimum salary, I don't think we need to go to Kevon Looney on this slate, even if he starts again. So yeah, that does it for the Warriors, and that does it for all 12 games. Hope you guys did enjoy the team-by-team breakdown. I know this video was pretty long, but when you have 12 games, there is a lot to break down, and I want to give you guys as much information as I can. So I hope you enjoyed. Hit that like button before you do get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. Be sure to click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. You will also get notified every time I do go live, and I will be live streaming this afternoon for Wednesday's 12-game slate. So if you're able to tune into the live stream, I'll be able to answer all your questions there. We'll be able to talk through the slate once again, maybe hit on any injury updates to come out throughout the day. So tune into the live stream. Hit the like button, guys, before you get out of here. Hit the subscribe button. Check out my exclusive content on Patreon, which is linked down below in the description. But yeah, good luck tonight, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.